In other news, NATO's 32 members have pledged unwavering support for Ukraine. The bloc's chief, Jens Stoltenberg, has said that NATO allies had collectively identified China as a decisive enabler of Russia's war.
In the way that this is a strong message from NATO allies that we really want Ukraine to join and that we are working with Ukraine to make that happen. Words are important, and words creates expectation, creates an agenda, defines an ambition. But of course, as important as words, the language in the declaration is actually what we then have agreed to do. So in many ways, action speaks at least as loudly as words. So I think you need to understand the declaration with a reference to a irreversible path to membership together with what we do. China provides dual-use equipment, microelectronics, a lot of other tools which are enabling Russia to build the missiles, to build the bombs, to build the aircraft, to build the weapons they are using to attack Ukraine.
The Kremlin said that it was watching as NATO's military infrastructure moved closer towards Russia's borders and that Moscow would need to act to contain the Western military alliance. A Russian news agency cited Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov as saying that NATO's goal was to suppress Russia and that the alliance's actions represented a serious threat to Russian national security. The United States and Germany said in a joint statement on Wednesday that Washington, D.C. will start deploying long-range fire capabilities in Germany in 2026 in an effort to demonstrate its commitment to NATO and European defense. For its part, China on Thursday criticized a draft communique from the NATO summit, which described it as a decisive enabler of Russia's war effort in Ukraine as biased and full of provocations. Speaking to journalists at a press briefing, China's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Lin Jin said NATO hyped up China's responsibility with regard to the Ukraine crisis. The spokesperson accused NATO of playing up the tensions in the Indo-Pacific region with full of Cold War mentality and belligerent rhetoric. Beijing put forward a 12-point paper more than a year ago that set out general principles for ending the conflict but did not get into specifics. And Nick Harper joins us from Washington, D.C. for more. Nick, would you say that it was NATO's most pointed remark yet on China?
Yeah, Ramesh, undoubtedly, these are the strongest words that we have seen to date from NATO coming out of this draft communique put together by those more than 30 members. I think it's very interesting to note that they have increased their language against China in recent years. But I think going as far as they have here, calling China a decisive enabler of the war in Ukraine really amps up the tensions between the Western military alliance and China. NATO also saying they have deep concerns about China's actions, saying they're worried about the no-limits partnership between China and Russia and also China and North Korea, and saying that China cannot enable the largest war in Europe in recent history without this negatively impacting its interests and reputation. We're also seeing much more cooperation and coordination between alliance partners in the Indo-Pacific and NATO as a direct result of that perceived aggression by China in the region, in particular aggression in the South China Sea. So in just over an hour's time, we will have a special meeting between alliance partners, 4 of them, Australia, New Zealand, Japan and South Korea, meeting with NATO members to specifically look at the Indo-Pacific region and to look at China's actions in there. I think NATO making it very clear with this communique, with this upcoming meeting, that they are looking at security not just in Europe with the war in Ukraine, but also the impact on security in the Indo-Pacific region as well, and the part that China plays in that.
That said, the NATO summit in Washington, D.C. comes just a few months before the U.S. presidential election. Is Europe worried about the impact the election result could have on US's support for Ukraine and NATO if Biden loses to Trump?
Well, yes, and that is something that Jens Stoltenberg, the NATO Secretary General, has been asked about. It's what some of the European leaders here in Washington, D.C. have also been asked about. No one has directly come out and said that they are worried about a Donald Trump presidency, but that is certainly at the back of everybody's minds. Donald Trump has a NATO skeptic, as someone who has said that he would massively withdraw funding for Ukraine. There is that concern that with a Donald Trump presidency, there could be significant impacts in Ukraine's ability to fight its war against Russia, but also the leadership of the NATO alliance without the United States a part of it, or at least particularly skeptical of its actions. But I think there are also concerns about what a second Biden presidency might look like. He is under incredible pressure at the moment. His every action, his every word is being watched because there are significant concerns about his ability, his mental fitness to serve a second 4 years. Many Democrats within his own party are urging him to reconsider that re-election bid, to drop out of the race now. So it's not just a second Donald Trump presidency, but a second Joe Biden presidency that is worrying many within the alliance at this time.
Indeed. All right, we'll leave it at that. Nick Harper in Washington, D.C., thank you very much. Appreciate it.